On the night my dad was murdered, we were living in Busega, and I don't know, I tell that story like I was very present and I was very understanding and I knew everything, but it's because it's been told to me by my mom, and also because of the things I tend to remember sometimes. I am the firstborn boy. We are 8 in total, all from one woman. I was very drawn to her. My mom didn't really study much, so my dad had like set up structures for her to work and get money and then come back and care for the home. My mom, she's passionate about food, and she owns an eatery in my temporary structure where people just come in, sit and eat food and then go. She basically prepares food for around, the maximum would be like 35 people. And that for her has given her meaning and purpose throughout her whole life. She has held on to cooking to make other people happy to live. Her mother also made a living. They were, what do they call them? The people that got, it's like a gig. Catering, that's the word. So yes, her mom was doing that, and also made a living through that. So my grandmother would take my mom with her when she had those gigs to cook for people around. And that's how my mom also learned how to make different dishes. And now, because with these gigs, people used to travel up country, they travel anywhere to make food. So she got different blends of how to make different traditional foods. One of her biggest dreams is to have a school of some sort where she can also train other people to cook, and specifically young girls and women. My mom married my dad when she was very young, because she says she had my first sister when I think when she could barely breastfeed. So for me then, I'm already thinking, I'm like, okay, how old was she, right? Like, at what age is that? Wait a minute, because she told me this, I was like, you're kidding me. I grew up and I saw, pop-up pimples, and I'm like, wait. I'm not saying, like, pimples don't affect old people, they do, but there's a stage it really disturbs them. As you're growing up. And now I'm putting everything together and I'm like, oh my God, there's so much trauma in my mom's life. My mom witnessed my dad's murder. That night is where everything started. She has to somehow figure things out for herself. And because we were 5 at the time, it was hard for her to take care of all of us at once. So family intervened, which was a beautiful thing, but also it has its ripple effects. I stayed with her for a while because she refused to let me go initially. She's like, no, this one can't go. But eventually, my uncle decided we want to support Patrick better. We were separated. And then she has to keep it moving. And I'm not saying this happens in one day, but it's gradual but soft breaking that has led to a big thing over the time. So we grew up separate from her. And because now family is sitting to intervene and to help. At that time, I think that's when she lost her, I love to think of like her cautiousness with the world, her ability to touch and feel things, even though she lives and does everything like a normal human being. For the longest time, I've known her to be mute. And it's only now or then when I look back and I'm like, what caused all of this? You know, like what happened? And it drew me back to that night. So I had to grow up separate from her, and then my siblings also took different paths. I'm thankful for that, for people choosing me to stay with me. For me, that night was very important for my passion and journey with mental health. Because then I knew now what trauma was. I knew what now mother and child separation. Now I knew what it means to be depressed for a long time because of what happens, and then you don't address the trauma. When my dad passed, my mom had to carry on with life the following day. You know, you have to keep it moving the following day. So that meditation and self-reflection of myself, my family, the whole mindfulness thing is where my passion comes from. And the times I visited mom at some point, I realized, I'm like, why isn't there power in this house, you know? And at that time, we lived in Busega. My uncle stayed in Busega. And my mom wouldn't also stay so far away. My uncle used to have a lot of candles. I happened to take a lot of candles for my uncle and take them to her. I didn't get a beating. My uncle was a nice guy. He's an amazing man. Yeah, but they noticed the candles are disappearing. We also have women issues in the house. What's happening? 2020, that was a season for me of self-reflection. How have I been with the people around me? How do I use my gifts for the world to change the world around me? And that's when it hits. I can only change the world if I change my own. I had a whole picture of what a nice family looked like. I had a great picture of what it means to be a unit. You know, growing up with my uncle and his wife, my lovely cousins, the love there. Something was wrong with mine. You know, my cousins would even call me occasionally and check on me, but it was hard for me to stretch my hand out for my phone to bring my siblings or my mom. I was like, wait a minute. There's something wrong, right? And that's when everything came together. I was like, oh my God, so much trauma in our lives, in my family, so much pain, so much that has been taken away. And because I'm a fixer, I love fixing things, I'm like, things must work. And now I'm asking, what caused the not right? That's when I got exposed more to mental health. I started reading, now because I was reading and I was like, oh my God, I've been like this whole year. This is not right. And now then it takes me to my family. I'm like, oh my God, you know, is this silence nice? Is the quiet really peaceful? You know, what's really happening? So I'm like, oh my God. And then you see all these patterns in your life. You're like, okay, I've also had a crazy depression, like a long time depression from like early childhood. Because by the time a child starts keeping quiet, they're sad already. And then they may be happy today, tomorrow, but that occasional silence, it's constant. It contributes heavily to, it impacts you greatly as you grow up. So I'm now thinking of all these things. I'm like, da 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 da. Then my mind went to my mom. I was like, oh my God, this woman has been mute her whole life. I remember when we went for our psychiatric exam, because I wrote my mom's story. I kind of wrote it, and that was my cry for help for people out there to just help me. Because I remember at that time too, I was dying. I had opened Pandora's box, things I hadn't, I should not have maybe, because when I self-reflected, it's kind of like my brain also now took me back to all these events. Because when I'm thinking of how did she survive through all this, how did she did all of these things come to you so quick. I had that moment, and I just sat down, wrote my mom's story, the story of my dad's mother and everything, and how it has contributed to how my mom is like. And I was asking for help, for somebody to make her speak again, because I think that's not who she was. Maybe these things made her mute. So I got help. That's how we get to see a psychiatrist for free, and we did a number of therapy sessions. And then also that time I was exposed to so many things I didn't know, and I was like, oh my God, this is a real thing. Mental health is real. Because let me take you back a little bit. Before I wrote her story, I read an article about life challenges of a single mother and how they are detrimental to her mental health and how they contribute to the livelihoods of their children. In that article, I saw my mom. In that article, I saw myself. In that article, I saw everything. And that was my burst for help.